Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss All Quiet on the Western Front, or a different title in Germany, starring Felix Kammerer, Albrecht Schug. I don't know if I'm saying those names right, so please forgive me for that. Aaron Hilmer, Mortis Klaus, Adrian Grunwald, Eden Hasanovic, and Daniel Bruhl, directed by Edward Berger. Now, before I get into this, welcome to the 2023 Oscar bait. And I have reviewed a few of them before, like Avatar, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fablemans, and Top Gun Maverick, so I'm not going to do those again. I'm just doing the ones I haven't done yet for Best Picture. So let's see how this is going to go. So let's get into the movie. And I'm back on Netflix again. So this is a movie you can find on Netflix if you want to watch this movie for the Oscars. Let's get into it. The year is 1917, on the third year of World War One, looking at the point of view of North German side of the war, I should rephrase that, as they fight in no man's land and soldiers try to enter no man's land. And come on, nobody can survive no man's land. So how did they get through? Oh wait, they can't be. But the cinematography is beautiful to watch in this movie. But it's not as impressive as the movie 1917 with Roger Deakins doing one shot for that whole movie. But the score did seem a little distracting as it tells us war is hell, and I'm thinking I know how war is. I've seen a lot of war movies in my own time. The only thing that's special about this one is it tells us Germany's point of view. I guess that's why I got the Best Picture nominee. We get to Private Paul Baumer, played by Felix Kammerer. And what I noticed, despite this is a foreign language film set in Germany, I'm shocked my version of this movie was English, and at the same time, lips weren't exactly matching what the actors were saying in German. So I had problems with the lip syncs as they weren't matching what they were saying in German versus English, so that bugged me for the whole film. As Private Baumer is enlisting in the war with his friends Albert Kropp, played by Aaron Hilmer, Franz Muller, played by Moritz Klaus, and Ludwig Bem, played by Adrian Grunwald, as they get in a briefing during along with the other soldiers. And these shots are haunting and terrific to watch, as there were some shots that were haunting to the point it gave me the chills. As they go to war, the soldiers are stopped by a doctor to get other soldiers to well care, and the ones on the way to war out of the trucks and get to their bases on foot. And they test the masks as one soldier, I think that was Paul, who didn't put it on time and has no choice but to keep wearing it and watch where the others are asleep as they arrive on the battlefield, while Paul, who had his mask on, and the general takes it for him, and they look scared. And I will say this, like, I like these soldiers quite a bit, despite I've seen too many war films at this point. As we learned, they're at war with the French, we learn, and Paul is shot while keeping watch but is not dead, which was lucky for him. And the Germans get attacked at nighttime by the French, and one of Paul's friends freaks out and he wants to go home. And I feel for the guy, as he might be dead later in the scene, and he got a bloody death, which is to be expected in a war film, as the soldiers get buried at night. The next day comes, and Paul wakes up and gets greeted by other soldiers and starts to gather up some dog tags. And is the movie well made? Very much so. And do I care about the soldiers, despite I can't tell who's who? Absolutely. Like in any war film, it's hell. And I get it. Paul digs from his dead friend who killed himself in the previous scene, as he was the only one wanting out of the cave in the first place, which was sad for damn sure. 18 months later, we count all the dead soldiers, and reports are taken to Matthias Erzberger, played by Daniel Bruhl, as he tells his dictatorship off screen, and this character is the only one I can keep straight because I know Danielle Brühl from other things. While Paul and Stanislaus Kaczynski, or Cat for short, climb over the fence to steal a chicken to take back to eat at their base, while having a good time eating the chicken, as well as flirting with a couple of girls with Franz. As he takes off with them, Paul reads a letter with Cat from Cat's own wife, and I'm thinking because he can't read, as some people from back in the day can't always read the best, but I didn't mind this as long. But this is a long movie at 2.5 hours of characters that I can't keep straight, which felt a little problematic, but I still like the movie for how well made it is. But I can't say that I love it, this movie, because I mean, I get why people love it, but I just don't love it like other critics do. Paul goes in a room filled with other dead bodies with Kat, as they're led to believe they took off their masks too soon while on a railroad train with Erzberger, as he stopped by the French to question everyone on the train, and a commanding officer tells the general to the French have a deadly weapon that killed our other soldiers. And these scenes can probably be in the editing room floor, as it slows the movie down for me. The soldiers get prepared for battle to go into no man's land and get more and more people killed, and it becomes even more bloody, and the movie is falling apart to the point I'm losing interest, while some soldiers get to their enemy's hideout, and their food looks kind of gross, as it was surrounded by rats and tanks, and come in, and some do squeeze the life out of some soldiers, tanks I'm talking about, which was pretty damn graphic for sure, as some of them get killed the same way. So a little advice, don't hold your ground against the tank because it will kill you half to death. The French take no mercy but to shoot and burn the Germans alive, and the Germans retreat as they're getting their asses kicked. Meanwhile, back at the train, Erzberger has no choice but to surrender the Germans and to end the war, while the general doesn't want to surrender. And these scenes with Daniel Brühl slow the movie way down, I'm not going to lie. While Paul kills a Frenchman, whom after he gets stabbed, he doesn't quite keep his trap shut. And Paul is getting afraid of being at the war because he just killed a man, and he gives him water and tries to heal him, despite he's on the opposite team. Does it make sense to save his life? No, it doesn't. While Paul's face is looking like he's been poisoned, and by what? Maybe it's the gas breathing. But honestly, I just don't want get the gas in World War One. I just don't get it. The soldiers have been ordered to retreat as they're about to go home, while the surgeons are having a bloody mess of their own. And Paul visits a friend who was a soldier as the other soldiers celebrate the war being over, while one soldier stabs himself in the neck to death and died a painful death. And I thought, what the fuck? What was that? As that caught me off guard right off the bat, and the rest of the movie is becoming kind of flat. And here's my problem with this movie. As it is a film from Germany, I don't think it knows it while speaking English for most of the movie, and it is a war film that kind of takes a tad bit too long on scenes, and that are not in the war. Erzberger agrees to sign the retreat to end the war at the 11th date on the 11th hour, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why just end the damn war just right away? So that bugged me as well. Paul and Kat sneak into a farm, and Kat locks Paul in the barn, but eventually Paul gets out of and Kat is shot, and Paul carries Kat to the point he does die while being held by Paul himself, which is something that felt more realistic. I will give the movie that. The Germans get one more speech from its government of what the plan is before the 11th hour to attack the French one more time. And does it make sense to fight one more battle? No, because the war is over, but it will lead to some haunting shots, and Paul getting killed by a Frenchman as he's not coming home. But overall, this is a good movie, not a great movie. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to stick with. What does my rating say? Well, let's get to it. I'll give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I do like and care for the soldiers, but can't keep the characters straight, except for Daniel Bruhl, as he's the only actor I do know from other movies from the lead that played Paul, but everyone else I can't recognize. But the movie is well shot, as it's at times giving me the chills, and it does a good job of telling us war is hell, sure. But how many times have I seen that message in a movie? Almost a million times in my lifetime. While they weren't speaking German the whole movie, the mouths weren't matching the words, which bugged me for the entire movie. It is a long movie at a 2.5 hour length, and I get why people love this movie, but for the life of me, well, I will say I like it, but I don't particularly love it, and it is a recommendation to check out once during this award season, but honestly, after that, I found this movie kind of forgettable in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Elvis in a couple of weeks because I'm going to be out of town for the next couple and a half weeks. And until then, and the Oscar goes to.